Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Daylan Flowers like I am every Monday to talk all about Ole Miss sports and what's going on and stuff like that. And the main story that everybody wants to hear about right now is spring football. And that might be because the baseball team's not doing well and the other sports are all done, but we're going to start about spring football and see what's up. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Of course, back in Oxford, had an enjoyable kind of Easter weekend back home, but I cannot complain right now, man. Everything's going well.
Yeah, you did Sweet 16 this weekend, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But of course, mom lives outside of Dallas now, so I got to enjoy that. And I was there for DJ Burns. I was precisely there for DJ Burns, and I tell you what, man, he did not disappoint, man. It's just exciting to see NC State kind of just take over the ACC tournament and win that tournament, and now a chance to go to Phoenix and compete for a national championship, because it'll be a fun game. But between those guys and Purdue, and of course Zach Edey and DJ Burns, that'll be a fun matchup. I'm just so happy for NC State, man. They deserve this because their programs have just been an array of just disappointment for as long as I've been alive, and their women's team is now to the Final Four too in Cleveland as well. So they just have a lot of happiness going on in their program. So I enjoyed it so much, and just seeing Marquette was fun as well. I got to see John Shire and what a genius he is at a young age. It was a very fun-filled weekend, and Houston's exciting as well. It was just a fun-filled weekend, and it was fun as a neutral fan. Like we were just talking about it before. It was just fun as a neutral and not kind of having to be stressful about maybe your teams being in that moment. But at the same time, I was also thinking it's like, I can't wait for Ole Miss to hopefully be in this position in the coming years. So it was fun and a lot of great excitement for me as well, man.
Yeah, and dang it, if NC State, you're not old enough to know this, but they've done this before.
And I do know that, yeah. It's before my time, of course, the late, great Jim Valvano and what he did in his career at NC State. I'm not too familiar with it, but I am aware of what they've done before my lifetime, of course. So it's been a long time, and I think NC State fans are just happy to be in this position. They were like chanting after they won. They were like, why not us? Why not us? And I completely agree with that, man, because they, of course, just being the 11th seed, they've been ranked as the underdog, but like going into a lot of these matches, there's been no belief in a lot of journalists, commentators, sports anchors at all, from allowing them to be in this position where they are. So a lot of people thought the ACC tournament win was just a fluke. So it's happy to see them kind of just prosper right now.
And remember, the team that NC State beat in that 83 championship, the Houston Cougars, another team that was in that region. We almost had NC State versus Houston again for the chance for NC State to go to the Final Four.
Yeah, which is coincidentally hilarious, because just Duke and NC State being in that ACC matchup for either team to go to the Final Four was just a prop to their conference. And again, I am in full belief and hope that Chris Beard will get this program to where he's got other programs in the past. So I'm excited for what we have there, but let me not get too far into that today.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, there's an excellent 30 for 30 on Phi Slamma Jamma if you're interested in Houston basketball, and that's where Jim Nance got his start calling games. So, yeah.
And that's actually a good point, because a lot of people have kind of been realizing this year, since he retired last year, why has he been so many Houston games and blah, blah, blah. That's why he went to Houston, got his feet wet at Houston, and of course adapted to where he is today and just recently retired at Houston. So Houston is home for him, and Houston is love. So that's a great point, man.
All right, so we started out with kind of NCAA tournament. Let's move on to Ole Miss spring practice. And tomorrow's show, just so everybody knows, is going to be talking about the front seven of Ole Miss's defense, because that's kind of been the storyline, talking about of what this front seven can be. What is your opinion on this front seven? Because if my DMs are any indication, first of all, Austin Simmons is having a really good spring, because it seems like every practice my DMs blow up on that. But every day, every time they go out there, it's like, hey, this front seven is kind of special.
It is. And I've talked so much about the nature of intensity and hype and honestly just momentum that we have on our shoulders now, and we had to kind of adjust to that now, because Princely Umamayelin had a statement last week that I think is kind of shaking up the college football world. And if you haven't seen it, he just basically said his time in Florida, they just kind of put him out there and told him to go and use his attributes to do different things around the field. And he said it basically here at Ole Miss that the coaching staff is using a great system, and they're allowing him to say, we want you here, we want you to do this and this type of system. So expect a lot of expectations and smoke kind of being poured out our head. But I am so excited for this. And I want to make a point, too, that I think a lot of people are forgetting about, that Zach Arnett is an analyst on this football team now. And he's not a coach, but he's an analyst. So he has the time and the ability now to sit back and watch upcoming opponents and see what these teams are doing and see what they're doing differently that can allow our defense to be really elite. And he's done a fantastic job as being a defensive coordinator years prior. I know he was thrown into the state job last year due to the passing of the great Mike Leach. And, of course, that didn't go like he wanted it to. But I'm very excited to have him here on this football team. And I just think this line is – we saw last year the change Pete Golden came in and brought, and it was just noticeably different because – before Pete got here, we were running a lot of three-man rush, and we changed a lot of it last year. We were seeing exceedingly a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Sack rate went up higher. And just a four-man rush did allow guys like Cedric Johnson, Jared Ivey to just be more comfortable. And whether they were on the inside or on the outside blitzing, we just seen a lot more comfortability from our players. And I think that's a testament to what Pete Golden's been able to do in a quick amount of time, and just the trust that the players have and who he is as a coach and what the system is he's putting out there for us. And on top of that, he's bringing in really good players. And when you bring in really good players that can do a lot of different great things, that makes it almost not easy, but it just makes things flow really well as a coach for you, because you have guys that can listen, can be adaptable to change if needed, and as well can just go out there and produce what you're telling them to do, but at a higher level than most guys would do. And also to that point as well, I'm excited to see the guys right behind them. Man, Chris Poopall Jr., man, of course, my Arkansas love. I know a lot about this guy and what he can bring to a football team. And, of course, we saw what Sonterian Perkins did last year as a freshman, and just continue to hopefully see him progress and advance into probably one of the best linebackers in the country, because I think he was already on his way there last year as a freshman. So to see those guys kind of be right behind him, and again, a totality of other linebackers as well that we brought in, and even some guys returning, that is going to be really scary for opposing offenses. Because one of the things that I thought we did really bad last year on defense, just a few things, was open field tackling. And that was a problem even in the Penn State game, that we just had a problem tackling guys, whether they got up the gap and running the football or just a slant or a streak pass on the passing game. We had a problem open field tackling. But when you get a defensive line like this and you get a great linebacker core like this, a quarterback's not going to have a lot of time to get rid of the football. And that's just the reality of it is. And so I'm expecting that open field tackling to, of course, be better than it was last year. But expect to see a lot of quarterbacks that play this defense that not have a lot of time. And you're going to have to see offensive coordinators and team adjust to that type of game plan against us, because not only are we going to be able to send a lot of pressure like that, but I think in instance we're also going to see guys be able to sit back if needed as well, and maybe drop in different types of zone coverage as well that we've seen Pete kind of love to go at last year as well. But I'm so excited, man, because this is what you do as an elite team. You gather what you need, you build depth, and you recruit at an elite level. And that's whether that's in high school or, of course, now we're in the transfer portal era, and that's what we've been able to do. And I'm just so excited. And I've said this throughout the football season. I've kind of not said it since then, but have faith and trust in this coaching staff. And I believe that when the season was going, and I kept it because I knew what they were going to do. And it's just here right now to see what they've been able to do. And that's why I said, even when, kind of a little flip, but when Quinshawn left, I'm like, guys, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Trust our coaching staff. And that's why we have to trust our coaching staff, because they know what they're doing. And, of course, there's a lot of things changing, but I have full trust in our coaching staff. So I'm excited, man. I think it's just going to be a lot of full-out confidence and swagger on the line and on the defense in general, and just expect to see a lot of flying things on our defense this year.
Well, let's change the subject just a little bit and kind of go around Ole Miss athletics a little bit. And this isn't necessarily Ole Miss athletics, but Kellie Harper was let go by the Tennessee Lady Vols today. This is a situation that I think Coach Yo should do whatever she can and offer whatever to at least try to get her on staff at Ole Miss. Now, I think Kellie Harper probably has another job by now. That's
Yes.
how quick this is going on. But at late 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, whenever that was, Kellie Harper, Kelly Jolly was my crush back in the day. And I always have a soft spot for Kellie Harper now and what's going on with her. And I just would. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. But back in those Tennessee Lady Vols days, there was like several things that was real. One, Shamiqua Holtzclaw was the best college basketball player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Kellie Jolly was an amazing point guard, and Pat Summitt is the only coach, male or female, that just intimidated the shit out of me.
Man, I want to say this. Kellie Harper is an incredible coach. And I say that, and some people, of course, may not know who she is. But on top of that statement, may not understand, okay, if she's incredible, why was she fired? Well, one, Tennessee is Tennessee. And they are, of course, going to forever live off the legacy of what Pat Summitt did. And that is what the expectation is. Honestly, you got to think like what Nick Saban did at Alabama. That's what Pat Summitt did at Tennessee. She
And
changed the
Alabama
landscape.
football is about to go through the same thing.
Exactly. And so when you think about it, it's like the expectations are almost not impossible, but almost unhumanly factual for someone to just come in and do what Pat Summitt once did. But Kelly is an amazing recruiter, has a great game plan on both the half-court set of offense and defense. But she did collapse. Of course, the known thing now is against South Carolina and the foul to give they did before, and of course the three-point shot they did to get them knocked out. And she also did a little questionable things in the NCAA tournament, which allowed them to get knocked out. So her late game coaching, it was questionable this year, but I've seen her in the past years, and it can be really exceptional. And so you said the point that she probably already has a job right now. She probably does. She is an elite talent, an elite recruiter. And I think as well, Tennessee maybe is trying to answer because of course, I apologize. I can't remember his name, but Kentucky just hired Virginia Tech's head coach to now lead their women's basketball program. So maybe in my head, Tennessee is trying to revolve around their rival Kentucky and doing what they can do to get back into what is an already tough SEC conference, but you have to think what is a tough SEC East conference with, of course, South Carolina being in there, which is enough as it is. So expect her to probably already, like you said, have job offers, but I would, of course, love to see Coach Yo bring that in because she's been able to really adapt to the transfer portal really well. And I think on top of that, now that she's winning, she's been able to just be a little bit more at ease recruiting in the high school recruiting placement. But Kellie Harper is probably one of, if not the best high school recruiting coaches they have in women's basketball right now. So we can get that on the staff, which is unlikely, but if we can even just get a look at her and maybe just get a little phone call, that just builds me up my confidence for her and for what this program is right now. But expect her to make some noise wherever she ends up at very soon. So
yeah, and everything. The only weakness that Ole Miss Lady Rebels basketball has right now is outside the arc. Everything that happens inside the lane and 2-point wise, they are exceptional. And Kellie Harper would fix that, to fix the outside stuff because she's a guard at heart.
100%, man. Like I was at the Duke NC State game yesterday, like what we talked about, and Duke was in the game because they weren't hitting a lot of threes, but they were making their free throw shots. I think they shot like 21 for 28 from the free throw, which was keeping them in the game in hindsight because they shouldn't have been in the game. But Kellie Harper's teams over the last few years have increasingly just rised in 3-point shooting. And like you said, that's been the key disadvantage that we have. We rely on defense with Coach Hill. We rely on paint pressing. We rely on our rebounding and our hustling a lot of teams, but we just can't hit down. We can't hit the shots. We've got Snudder Collins and Alana Eden who were really good this year in the chances they got, but Snudder battled a lot of injuries, and we just didn't see a lot of Ilana at the later part of the season. So of course, if we could get Kelly here, man, she would bring a different dynamic there. But even if not, I think that's something that we will see Coach Yo try to attack more in this transfer portal and even the high school recruiting because Surprisingly, to my knowledge, Zakai Stevenson entered the transfer portal earlier today, a freshman that didn't average a lot of points, but she played a lot of minutes this year, and I just felt like Coach O trusted her a lot, and I, of course, thought that Zakai trusted Coach O a lot too. Again, that's not my business. I don't know what happened, what's going on behind closed doors or anything like that, but we'll see a replacement of her, I'm sure, soon, and what she was able to bring to the table would be missed, but don't expect Coach O to not revitalize his team for Team 50. I think we have a lot of unfinished business, and I think that Notre Dame game did not justify who this team is, what this coaching staff was, and where we're going. And I think we're just going to continue to hopefully get to where we want to be. We want to be playing the Elite Eight games for 4 teams in the college women's basketball are today. We want to be in this. We want to be here next year. This is where we want to be. This should be the expectation, and I think that is going to be the role that Coach Hill and her staff are going to look at.
All right, now let's change the subject to a little bit more uncomfortable. This Ole Miss baseball team right now is in a bad situation.
Yeah, they are, man. 32 runs in 2 games it's just flat out unacceptable, and it's not going to get any easier, man. We have Arkansas.
Gave up nearly 40 runs at home, not to a power in the SEC.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Yeah. That's my point, man. It's not going to get any easier. We go to Arkansas here soon, and if you don't know, Arkansas is the number 1 team in the country. They've been firing all cylinders, just absolutely fought very hard against a tough LSU team, but came out with a series victory. It's not going to get any easier for Mike Bianco. And unfortunately, and there are times with baseball that I sit back and say, okay, maybe the pitching rotation, the pitching staff is doing really good, but maybe we're just not getting enough offense. Or maybe the infielders are doing good, but the outfielders maybe aren't just doing the job. Right now, nothing is clicking for us, man. And it's weird because we were getting so much momentum at the start of the season. We started off right in the first few games, but we kind of got back. South Carolina series went really well for us, but now we're here, and it's just like, we don't get it, man. And it's just, I don't understand maybe the consistency of our guys, the depth we don't have either as well. And just the depth that we do have, kind of bring it to a point that I made earlier about the practice football squad. They are not able to do a lot of different things with their rotation and what the guys bring differently for pitching. And so that leaves us at an abyss for when we're facing anybody in the SEC, man. Again, Kentucky isn't an elite team, but they're in the SEC, man. At any given day, a team of this conference can give you a run for your money, just like we saw this past weekend. And that's what Kentucky did, man. And unfortunately, it's not going to get any easier, man. We are in the SEC West. We're in the SEC in general, and you're going to face elite competition week after week after week. And I don't know where to go with this, man, because, again, I think Bianco has done an incredible job here, but man, it's not looking where we should be, where we expect to be at this moment in time. And that's a testament to a lot of different things. And I hate it because I think we have a lot of great talented guys, but I just feel like we are missing a true kind of leader out there on that field in the bullpen as well. And I think maybe that would kind of spark a fire in the guys' butts a little bit. But it's hard to continue to bounce back when we're not just losing games. We lost. What was the score yesterday? I think they put up 15-2. We're losing like 17-3. It's not just the losing games. It's in a flat out embarrassment.
It's slow bitch softball games.
It is. And when you're losing these types of games this early on in conference play, you're not going to have any confidence going into the later parts of the season. And when we get to the chance in the SEC tournament and maybe have a chance to go to Omaha, you're not going to have any confidence or momentum or any type of true confidence in your own game that's going to allow us to get where we want to go. So I don't know, man. It sucks because, man, we just won the national championship 2 years ago. And, when you get on top of that, I can't say that you expect to go back-to-back because that chance of that happening is almost 0 to none for teams. But you expect to be competitive. And we're just not doing that right now. We didn't do it last year. And I personally thought before this season started that we would get back to it. And I think I've seen sparks of that. It's just not consistently there, excuse me. So I don't know where to go with this. There's a lot more takes I have on. I'm not going to get too far into it today. But man, I hope we can figure something out quickly because, again, it's not going to get easier, and we have a long road to go right now, and I hope things can change as quickly as possible for us.
Yeah, I think the best case situation, this is the absolute best case that Ole Miss can hope for, is get one game in Arkansas, although that's going to be increasingly difficult, and
Yes.
get 2 games against State. And Ole Miss hasn't won a series in Oxford against Mississippi State since 2015. It's been 10 years. It's probably more likely that Ole Miss gets to the midway point of the SEC schedule, and they're 4-11.
That's very true, man. And on top of that, a point that I want to make, I hate it because at this point, a lot of fans don't want to go see this. We don't want to spend our time and money, at Swayze anymore, seeing what this product has unfortunately become right now. And so we don't have a home field advantage like some teams do, and that is a killer because not only are we not going to execute on the road, we're not executing at home. Teams are just coming down to Oxford and just swinging away, and basically putting up not perfect pitching games, but really, really good pitching games against our offense. And we're just not seeing any confidence, any momentum, or any just realization of what we need to do to change within our program right now. And it's going to continue to kick us in the butt, man. It really is, because it's not. I keep saying this, but it's not going to get any easier. This is the slide road right now. It's about to go really uphill in terms of who we play within our next remaining schedule very soon. And I just can't see right now where we are today how we can get any progress within the amount of games and who we're playing in the recent future.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Daylan Flowers, thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Appreciate you, man. As always, high to y'all, and blessed as always.